Happy Friday, everybody. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. We're going to do things a little differently today because that's what we've had to do every week. I often host the show since quarantine from my restaurant, Della, here in Brooklyn. But today, because of my guest, I'm very excited about this guest. And the topic of today, it is Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I am actually in my home dojo right now. My martial arts school is also closed, as they are across most of the country. So immediately we put mats down in the apartment as my wife and my daughters train as well. We didn't let the quarantine stop that at all. So I'm in full regalia, rash guard, board shorts, the black mat, the whole thing here, summoning the spirit of jiu-jitsu and all the amazing people that have given this gift to the world. Before I introduce my guest today, I would like to share the message of the week, which is something that in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, your head instructors, your black belt instructors are referred to as professors. This is a message that my professor, Professor Karel, has said many times. He's also apparently a friend of my guest today. I just learned that recently. There are many messages in the practice of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. It's often stressed that the training is 75% mental, 25% physical, although it looks different from the other side, but that's the amazing metaphorical part about training in martial arts. And this is something he has said many times. Martial artists are like the sculptor that sees the finished statue in the uncarved block. As martial artists, we are always seeking to make order out of chaos. And I think that's very applicable these days because there's plenty of chaos. It's like, oh, as soon as you get one thing under control, boom, there goes another one. If it's not, a pandemic, it's riots. I'm just waiting for the asteroid to fall in like New York Harbor and cause a little tidal wave. But that's why if you got a good break fall, you'll be okay. Right? So with that, I would like to introduce my guest today. It is Professor Karel Pravec. He is the owner and head instructor of Silver Fox Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. No relation, Jeremiah Fox and Silver Fox, but maybe one day the foxes will unite.
We are part of the extended Renzo Gracie Brazilian Jiu Jitsu family, so
True.
I think we are related to some extent. So
yes, how are you doing today?
Excellent.
Awesome. It is really a pleasure to have you on the show. The show is mainly about entrepreneurship, but I have found through my journey as a business owner and a martial artist so many connections between the two. And I reference jiu-jitsu at least every show, usually multiple times. I've had other dojo owners on and martial artists, and it's a wonderful thing to have in your life. But if you are a business owner, I argue it's a necessity these days. So you're both. You are a black belt jiu-jitsu instructor, and you own more than one school, correct?
Yeah. Well, I like to think of it as one school with two locations.
There you go.
It's very important to have the same kind of atmosphere, same kind of spirit in both of them. So yes, I think a lot of people, it's kind of funny because what you mentioned about restaurant industry, that you were in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's kind of funny because I think a lot of people that don't know, they love to have a martial arts school or restaurant. There are certain businesses that people think of as, I'd love to have this because they just see the surface of what is happening, and it looks great. Yeah, it is great. That's I love teaching, I love training, but you have to do a lot of other things that you need to do, especially in restaurants too. That's a rough industry, very hard to survive, and I commendable anybody that can survive for more than a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. And martial arts schools as well, right? It's not an easy gig. I always tell people, and I think it's true because I'm involved in a number of other small business and brick and mortar. That's been my past for the most part, has been brick and mortar retail, most of it dealing with food and beverage. And I tell people all the time, like, you are on the front lines constantly. It's just, you can never get comfortable, which is like so martial arts, right? Like, just don't ever think you're good. Like maybe I think I get the feeling like you're like, I'm good.
No. That's, if any martial arts instructors and owners are listening, I'd like to, being on, being uncomfortable, or you can't ever get comfortable. I think that there's a message in this. First of all, I think one of the first things that people learn in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is being comfortable, being uncomfortable. You know, you have some guy way bigger than you laying on top of you, and you have to somehow, usually it involves you tighten up your cores, lifting your head off the mat. It makes things a lot easier. And you have to be comfortable because you can't think. You will panic if you do not get comfortable and understand, okay, I can do this. I can get out. And if, you know, I think this virus thing, it's thrown a loop to a lot of small businesses. Mm. But the way I look at it is, guys, it's going to keep us very sharp, because if we cannot, if we just give in, or if we just run things as normal and just like expect, you know, you get too comfortable and too complacent, that's not a way to run a school. You know, sometimes you got to rise up to the occasion and suck it up and move on and do it all over again and do it better. So
yeah,
my message is,
yeah, no, it's like if you go into class and there's just this big guy and like you're at the same level, but he's bigger than you and stronger, and you're just under him the whole time, and it just feels like that beat down. You know, you could leave class and be like, man, I'm terrible. You can leave class saying, wow, that was an amazing experience, because one, I'm still alive. I survived. And there that you probably got just a little bit better. You don't realize it. It's another thing that Professor Karel stresses all the time, is that you don't see your incremental progress on a daily basis, but the instructor.
We do. We see it.
Yes, exactly. But when you're under that big guy and you're squirming and you're like, okay, and you're not panicking, like that's a win. That's a huge win. And the same can be said about I think entrepreneurship and small business owners. When you're in this is a fucked up situation, you know, and yeah, you gotta wrangle and wiggle a little bit. And I'm known as a squirmy one in the dojo. I'm one of the smaller guys. I'm 150 pounds soaking wet, but I managed to like wiggle out of most things. And I kind of
squirminess is good.
Yeah, I like it. That's my, you know, no gi. That's why I'm in. Oh my God, it feels like Brazil out here today. I don't know where you're in New Jersey, correct?
Yeah, I'm actually in my school, which is currently closed down. But we film online class every single day. But I forgot to put the air conditioning on, so
boy, so
it's okay.
I'm in a corner of my apartment in Brooklyn where we don't have air conditioning. I got the windows open, and it started to rain, like nice summer wind. But oh my, it's humid. It's how I feels like a Brazil in here.
It's okay.
So let's give everybody a little backstory on you, about how I believe you told me the other day you were in finance prior to this.
Yes, I was.
How did you go from finance to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? That's an interesting trajectory.
I think at first I started actually training martial arts. I think before I got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I was into striking, Taekwondo. Not Olympic style Taekwondo. This was before Taekwondo got into the Olympics. And what wound up happening, basically it's the Kung Fu theater that got me into it. Bruce Lee, Kung Fu theater, channel 11, channel 5. And I was watching the movies. I really enjoyed it. I always wanted to train. And, I started training. And, as I progressed through the ranks, I had my favorite training partners. And, there was 4 or 5 of us that kind of used to spar together on the side also. And we used to go to a lot of seminars. Seminars back in the day used to be a whole weekend event. And it used to be, you sometimes start on Friday afternoon. You do Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. And we used to go to everything, Jeet Kune Do style seminars, which is Bruce Lee's. It's not his style. It's more his philosophy. We used to go to Bill Wallace, Superfoot, amazing, kickboxer, Joe Louis, and guys like that, Small Circle Jiu-Jitsu, Wally J, which a lot of these guys were disciples of Bruce Lee, which they actually wind up taking whatever Bruce Lee's philosophy was and applied it to their own sort of inclination. So long story short, we used to train and incorporate whatever we learned into our training. And one time, a buddy of mine, I was a black belt in Taekwondo, and I was already teaching some classes, and he was brown belt, but he was a tough guy. And he's like, listen, did you ever hear about these Gracies from Brazil? I said, no. I said, well, here's a tape, VHS tape. Check it out. And by the way, they're coming into New Jersey. This is in Chariton, New Jersey, in Parsippany, 1991. So check it out and take a look at it, and we should go. So I looked at it. I was like, interesting. Well, I'll go. So wind up going. Everybody was there. It was Hickson was there, Hoyler was there, Hoyce, Helio. It was 20 of them. Like Horian is probably about 10 adults and 10 kids.
I think I've seen a video of this. Is there a video of it?
I don't know if a video exists. It was in Sheraton Tara. It was in a carpeted room. I don't even remember if we had mats. I don't think so. It was one of those big conference rooms that usually have tables and everybody's paying attention to the speaker. And I still remember to this day. I remember, at the end, you would spar and you roll with, Hickson and Hoyce. And I remember Hoyce got on my back so quickly and kicked me in the nads as he was putting his hooks into it. I literally felt like a baby, and I was like, all right, this is interesting. I really need to explore this some more because I just felt helpless. So, the next year, 92, they came into the city, into one of the New York, CUNY, City University of New York colleges. I forget, East Side, Upper East Side. So I went again. This time there was start to be money, and the word started to spread a little more. So there was a little bit more splintering. So it was only like 5 adults and a couple of kids. So it was not as massive as the other one. In 93, Horian sent Craig Kukuk, who's first American black belt, to teach in New Jersey and New York and Philly. So basically, and he had a prompt falling out with Horian. So he was doing tapes. He wanted to do, instructional tapes. So he talked to Renzo and got Renzo to partner up with him on the tapes. And Renzo started traveling to the New York metro area and started teaching classes, would do private, stay for a month, film, and then go back to Brazil. And then Renzo moved, I believe, in 95. So this happened in 93, 94. In 95, Renzo moved, I believe, permanently to the U.S. to run a school with Craig. And Craig was a hard ass, and he basically, nobody knows him. And nowadays he moved to Idaho, and I've been with Renzo ever since he started teaching first, and then I've been with him since that time.
Wow.
So that's how I got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Initially, I was training more. I always trained 6 to 7 days a week. I'm training 7 days a week now, but I'm always more interested in the early parts. I was more interested in striking, and I just wanted to have Brazilian Jiu Jitsu just in case if I got taken down. And as I'm doing this over time, I'm, training once a week Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and 6 days a week, primarily stand up. And then a year later, it's 2-3 times a week Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and 4 or 5 stand up. And as I'm doing this, I'm realizing, man, this is a lot more intricate than I thought. There's a lot more to it than I thought. And I had a really hard time in the early days. Now, my first 10 years was a very rough ride for me. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I've learned more in the last 10 years than I did in the first 15, I think. Part of it was I'm on the mats every single day. If I'm not on the mats, I'm training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in the water. It's an oddball thing. But once I got to a certain level, I started to understand it better. I do not understand why I didn't quit, because it was very, very frustrating to me. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand and this is one thing that I would encourage people to explore when they start to get to high blue and purple belt levels, is there are different styles of game. And I thought there was one style, like you got to smash and pass the guard and kill. And that's not necessarily the way. And the more I tried it, the more I'm, a little heavier than you are. Probably right now I'm 157, but still not the strongest guy, not the biggest guy in the room by any means. And
yeah, it's hard to smash it that weight.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And my technique was not good enough to withstand, their strength, power, explosiveness, athleticism. But over time that tide has turned. It will take time, but it will turn. And now I understand it better. My body has been to a large extent rewired, where it makes sense. Like I can literally get into a position and try to figure out, is there a better way to do this? Or how do I get out of it, even if I've never been into it. So like I said, I got into it, over time I've ramped up. And since I, opened the school 14 years ago, I used to train, even before then I used to train every single day, about an hour a day. Now I'm on the mats. If I'm training in the water, I'll be in the water for 40 minutes training, drilling Brazilian Jiu Jitsu solo drills. That's my recovery day. But if I'm not on a day I'm in recovery, I'm going to be on the mats, anywhere for an hour to two training for myself. And then, 2+ to do for my students. So I could be on the mats, 4 hours a day, maybe even more. So probably putting in 15, 20 hours of mat time, training time a week. So now my game is progressing, at a better clip than when I was, what I would call an avid hobbyist.
Yeah. We're going to take a little break, but I want to pick up with that and talk about your underwater training, because that's how you first landed on my radar. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a minute, everybody. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web.